Millions are unemployed, and unemployment levels are at their highest since the Great Depression. People's income has significantly been reduced. Retirement funds and balances in IRAs and 401ks have fallen, and the stock market is at an all-time low since the Spanish flu. Small businesses are in jeopardy, and many of us are just left scratching our heads wondering what lies ahead in the future. How can we better protect our finances? For those that are fortunate enough to still be working, what smart economic decisions can we make to actually benefit from these troubling times? Let's discuss. Today, we will be chatting with rock star financial advisor, Mr. James Farley of Northwestern Mutual, and Rochester, New York singer-songwriter, man of many gifts, Greg Meisenzahl. I'm your host, Amanda Ashley, and this is Afternoon Cocktail, Episode 18, Wealth and Living. Greg Meisenzahl, how are you? Welcome.
I'm awesome. Thanks for having me.
Hey, thank you so much for being a part of our show today. What are you gonna kick us off with?
This is my song called Pools. I thought it'd be kind of appropriate for our pandemic period right now. It kind of describes us kind of drifting along, kind of timeless.
Awesome.
So yeah, here we go. Diving in the deep end, and sink or swim, it depends. Like fight or flight, we just leave it up to chance. It's more comfortable sitting on the fence, and push me further down. Not a sound to be heard, and pull me further down. Vision's getting blurred, let me choke on my own words. And we are drifting nowhere, at least the water is cool. And we could run to the ocean, but we would rather just stay in the pools. Reflections of a crooked face get washed away, wave by wave, and day by day, oh, here we wait. There's no current in our veins, so we remain. And if you push me further down, I won't drown. I've held my breath before. And if you pull me further out, I'll sail around back to shore. And we are drifting nowhere, at least the water is cool. And we could run to the ocean, we would rather just stay in the pools. Drifting
You're listening to the original music of Greg Meisenzahl. Greg, thank you. That song Pools, I've listened to many times on Spotify. So if you guys enjoy that, make sure you go check out the recording. So, I mean, you're a man of that wears many hats. I mean, your website, when I clicked on it, I was like, holy moly, like this guy is immensely talented. I mean, you play multiple, you're a multi-instrumentalist, you're a Berklee graduate. Can you give our audience a little background information on your musical journey?
Yeah. I started out just playing saxophone in the 4th grade for the school band, and a year later, I watched this Super Bowl halftime show with Prince, and I thought playing the guitar was so cool, so I had to pick that up next. And then that kind of took me on 2 different paths with classical music and the saxophone, and that jazz background as well. That gave me kind of the technical facility as an instrumentalist, and then guitar was just something I could learn music or learn to do music as for a fun activity. And I kind of combined the two and got really passionate about it. Went on to do all these different bands in the high school, both in a classical setting, and then had my own metal bands, rock bands, whatever you want to call them. And then went to college to see what I really wanted to do. I was kind of pushed in a lot of different areas that I was interested in, but even now that I'm graduated, I find myself still pushed in a lot of different areas, and I think that's more of my calling than any specified sort of musical path.
Sure. So, I mean, you teach now, right? So, what's your actual degree from Berkeley, and was it performance?
So yeah, it's called professional music, which is a mix of 3 different concentrations. So I did saxophone performance, songwriting, as in a pop songwriting composition format, and music business.
Great. So, I mean, you're obviously using your degree. So, you are a performer and you're writing and producing music, not only for yourself, but for others as well, right? You have your own record label that you had mentioned you started with a buddy of yours. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so me and my best bud from back in 6th grade, his name is Jake. We've been making music kind of as a hobby for a number of years, and then we decided to just do things on a little bit bigger scale. As you get older, you have more money, more wealth to invest in better equipment, and then it just kind of spirals from there. So whether we like it or not, we have a lot of gear, and we like to record other people. So we are just kind of branching out, recording some of our friends that we're close with in Rochester who are also artists, and then allowing them to demo their music, kind of make a final copy of it, work really closely with them, and then we can publish them onto Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, and every other one of these platforms.
Wonderful. And I mean, you're experimenting with quite a few different genres as well. Like I know you had mentioned that you're working with a hip hop artist. So aside from
Mhm.
acoustic type music, you're working with other genres as well. I mean,
Mhm.
what you do obviously requires you're obviously tremendously skilled, but aside from that, I mean, how do you efficiently balance your time to accommodate all these various projects, while also being able to budget time aside to be creative?
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. That's still something I think a lot of people, including myself, struggle with. As a working musician full time, you're kind of committed to doing this role 24/7. It's not really a 9 to 5 job, but I think the more that you treat it as with a schedule like that, the more it's easier for me to concentrate on one thing at a time. What happens a lot is I'll start one project and then I'll remember, oh, I got to practice for this thing tomorrow, or oh, I got a lesson to teach in between all this stuff, or I have to go meet up at the studio and record this quick. So kind of marking out your day, as simple as it sounds, and just focusing activities, not in a big 2 hour time gap, but maybe in 20 minutes of practice and then do something else. It keeps me a little bit more focused, and I think that's the key element in managing all these different things is balancing your time, but making sure that when it's time to do musical activities that you're really focused on that, as if you were at work. I kind of treat it as like an athlete in a gym or even someone at a desk job. You have to be focused in if you want to get your work done. But starting
Sure.
with smaller time increments is, I guess, one of my bits of advice if I had to give any.
Well, I'm sure that keeps you, I mean, mentally occupied. Like by operating, the way you just mentioned, you can never get bored, I'm sure.
Yeah,
um,
no, that's it's a blessing for sure.
so, I mean, do you believe that, like, do each of your undertakings complement a certain side of you or fill certain voids? I mean, which one of your obligations would you say is closest to your heart or that you feel most passionate about doing?
Yeah, no, that's another good point you bring up. Filling in that void of always wanting to do more, and that's what's fun about music is you're always looking for something new in terms of new in perspective, and that gives you a new challenge to work on. So, I mean, with that regard, I don't. I guess I'm not too passionate about one certain area. It always kind of changes for me. Like for a while, it was like classical saxophone, and then I got really big into songwriting, and then I was like, well, I'm kind of sick of this. If you do something for too long and it's not really going anywhere, you kind of change it up. And at least for me, I kind of get distracted easily with stuff in music, so my passions change. If I had to choose something right now, it's just teaching. I'm doing a lot of online lessons, and I'm really passionate about setting up my studio for other kids, and young adults who want to learn as well. Um, but I guess being aware that things are always changing and being willing to adapt to a new opportunity or to a new gig, whatever it may be, kind of keeps you more sane and making your music more joyful. You don't want to get stuck doing the same thing forever.
Sure, lovely. And today's theme is wealth and living. As musicians, and you had mentioned this earlier, like we're always struggling artists, up until we're not. Um, do you, in what ways, like when we talk about wealth, it's not only financial, it also, we could be wealthy in a number of ways. I mean, what makes you feel wealthy in life?
Oh,
I
sorry. Can you
stump you?
repeat that again? You kind of broke up for me.
Sure. I mean, what do you feel like makes you feel wealthy? Not in a
Sure.
financial sense.
Right. Yeah. So reminding myself that I get to wake up every day and play music, as cookie cutter as an answer that sounds, it really kind of humbles you in a way, because I think as musicians, not that we think we deserve more or anything, but there's a certain gratification that you have to receive in order to make you feel a little bit more validated as doing music as a profession. So if you kind of ignore that and start to focus on, I have nothing, like I can't fail here. If I do fail, I'm just gonna get up the next day and do my next gig. That's something that I kind of hold on to that makes me feel more wealthy. Is that I have nothing to lose here. Um, in doing music, it's you only got one life to live, and as deep as that may get, really it's just a joy knowing that someone has found consistency with my music, and I can find the same.
I think, I mean, going along with that, the joy of just doing something you truly love. It's not the financial benefit that really is the true benefit of all that. I know I feel this with music, and before COVID-19, like I would always say,
Hmm.
it's not about the record deals or it's not about stardom as much as it is to just be able to wake up every day and to go out and perform, even on a small scale, to touch people's lives, to
Hmm.
be out there just doing something you're really passionate about is makes you beyond wealthy, I believe.
Yeah,
Where can our
that's a great point.
audience sure, thanks. Where can our audience learn more about you, and where could they download and be directed to your music?
Yeah, so if you want to just learn about me, you can go to gregmeismusic.com. That's Greg and then Mize music.com, no spaces. And if you want to listen to my music, I'm on Spotify under the artist name The Drive-In Experience. Again, The Drive-In Experience with no hyphen, just all spaces. You can look on Spotify, Apple Music, Amazon, SoundCloud, whatever streaming platform there may be. I think we should be on it right now.
Awesome, Greg. Thank you so much for your time and for being a guest on our show today. We're going to hear one more original song from Greg towards the end of the program. Before I get into our interview with Mr. James Farley, I just wanted to throw a bone to our sponsors. This season, we just entered our second season. This is our second show. And we've been so fortunate to pick up some really incredible sponsors. I want to just throw a shout out to Electronic Merchant Systems of New York. If you have any questions regarding accepting credit card payments, they will give you that old-fashioned service that's local and has an amazing national support backing it. Also, thank you to Untamed Events. MissRebeccaDodge.com is where you could reach out if you're in the party planning mode, trying to figure out how to brainstorm some ideas right now during COVID-19, how you could get together and plan your next big event for the future. Rebecca's your girl. And also a big shout out to all the residents at the Jewish Home of Rochester, Jewish Senior Living. Thank you for supporting our show and for being a sponsor. And I hope to see you in real life and perform for you all again soon. James Farley. How are you?
I'm fantastic. How are you today?
I'm pretty fantastic myself. Thanks for being here, and for sharing your for what you're going to be sharing with us. James, can you tell us a little bit about your company, about Northwestern Mutual, and what services you provide?
Yeah, sure. So I'm a financial advisor. I've been doing that for 11 years now. Northwestern Mutual is where I carry my license. They're known as probably the highest rated insurance company in the country as it relates to risk management, life insurance, and disability insurance planning, and a top 10 independent broker dealer. So there's a lot of advisors at Northwestern at a million different firms in town. I like to personally just focus on goal-based planning and helping people protect those they love and accumulate enough to do the things that they want to on a daily basis when they're not working.
Awesome. So, James, I know you. I work with James firsthand, and my family, Bo and I both are clients of yours. And, one thing that I always respect is just how honest and how driven you are to really formulate plans that are, you have such a personal touch to everything you do. Which is great. You're really looking out for the betterment of your clients, which is awesome. You're all about planning. So right now it's kind of hard to plan and people's plans have been thrown off track. And so for those financial plans that need to be reassessed due to the changes that households and businesses are now facing, how could we become more proactive in our planning in order to achieve any of those short and long-term financial goals during this time?
So that's a huge question and and extremely different for everyone. So the one thing I will say is I think, again, it's important to be focused on planning and not just tools and things like that. All planning is dynamic, and the reality is whether everything's going perfectly or we hit a pandemic, the reality is goals change, situations change, and will continue to over time. So the big things right now, I've been working proactively with people since February when the market started to take its downslope, and we've seen a lot of recovery since then. About just things to do from a planning standpoint. And probably the three most consistent things that came up during that time were, number one, making sure that you yourself are financially healthy and secure. So making sure you have cash in the bank, you got emergency funds, see if people have security with their income and jobs. And some people are making more money now than they ever have. Some people have lost their jobs. Obviously, a lot of people in this country have. Some of my businesses are trying to get loans to make it through this situation, and some of them are thriving. So everyone's in a different position. Number one is just assessing kind of where we are and where we are from a security standpoint, especially now that for some of us, our expenses have gone down dramatically. Daycare might not be happening and other things like that. Secondly, to take a look at stress testing your plan and saying, hey, if your plan was you were going to retire now or send your kids to college now or things like that, even if that might be 10, 15, 20, 30 years down the road, how would that affect your ability to do that successfully? So are there backup plans in place? Do you have things besides your 401k or higher risk assets that you can rely on as backups? And if not, how can we improve that situation? Also, is there an opportunity right now to deploy more money for the long term? Because when things are going down and people are panicking and selling, I'd rather be the one buying, quite frankly. So it's become a good opportunity for that. And finally, from a cash standpoint, for those that are financially healthy or in a somewhat stable position, besides increasing and trying to find ways to save more and improve their long-term plan, negatively, interest rates have gone to nothing, which is bad for cash, but it's really good for debt. So we've been looking at opportunities to refinance mortgages and either save money or save years by shaving interest off and shortening the period of what we owe, reviewing our student loans or other debts out there. There's been a really good opportunity to reduce outflows during this time.
Yeah, refinancing. Bo and I signed a nice stack of papers yesterday, thanks to you. Percentages are down. And thank you for for bringing that up, because that's something maybe that we never would have thought of or considered had we had not spoken with you. What about like stocks? I mean, a lot of people are pulling out of stocks, and that's probably not the best decision, right? Do you have anything to add to that?
For obvious compliance reasons and things like that, I can't make any sort of blanket, recommendation or things like that. But as it relates to, the last few months, in my opinion, have been a really one of almost a life-changing investment opportunity for a lot of people. Here's the reality. Just like we talked, just like you said, like unless we thought about it, might not have thought about refinancing. It's really easy when things are happening negatively around us to kind of look down and let the world pass and then look back up later on, instead of saying, hey, let's look at the opportunities that might be presenting themselves to us right now, how we can make decisions proactively to put ourselves in a better position moving forward. So, I think about it logically from this perspective. When the market, when we had our last major recession in 2008, 2009, what advice would you have wanted to get? And most people would stand up, on a mountaintop screaming, I wish I would have bought a whole lot more when things were going down, when everyone else was panicking, because long-term it works out. And so I would never recommend anyone to invest or gamble with money that they can't, that needs to be there tomorrow to feed their family or any of those things. Again, the most important thing is you're financially secure and you're okay. But for people that have been sitting on a lot of cash, it's been a really good opportunity to deploy and expand our long-term position. So I think it has been a really positive opportunity to take some risk. Now, things have come back quite substantially, so I'm not saying you're going to get huge wins in the short term. You have to have a reasonable period of time on that investment, and it needs to be well diversified. And I would say, consult with your advisor, consult with a professional on that.
Sure. And you had mentioned emergency funds. I think about if anything has been brought to light throughout this crisis, it's the need to have some backing, behind you. There's so many people that are just strapped right now that live day to day, paycheck to paycheck. Right now, emergency funds look pretty attractive, right? And we're expecting a second wave of this. There's no doubt that this is going to come back, and we're not sure that by the fall we'll have a vaccination in place. How do we better plan for the next wave of this? What advice would you give somebody that maybe might be a little resistant to bank some money away for the future because they just feel like I can't, I don't make enough money to put, any money aside, so it's not an option. How do you convince them otherwise?
That's a challenging thing to answer as well. So I guess a couple pieces. My advice, regardless of what economic situation we're in, whether we're thriving or in a recessionary period or facing a crisis, is we should always have a reasonable amount of liquidity because life will happen. Okay, right? I mean, whether we have an event like this, medical events occur, people lose jobs. We need to have the financial capacity to deal with those ebbs and flows. And so general rule of thumb is we should have liquid access to at least 3 to 6 months, 3 months of income or 6 months of expenses, whichever number is higher. Now that number will shift over time as far not only in size, but also in where it might be. We might not always want that in cash, but for most people, we want to at least have that much in liquidity or cash, depending on what their balance sheet looks like, to be able to withstand some of those things. Because otherwise, we wind up in a negative spiral of using debt to survive, and using debt to survive can cause some significantly compounding negative effects. Secondly, there's the reality is there's no magic pill for saving money. The only way to save more money is to make more or spend less. And so I think, now is a really good time to take a look at what our true expenses and spending habits are, because for most of us, our expenses have dramatically gone down, whether we're earning an income or not. There's a little bit less activities that we're spending money on, vacations and things like that. And so we can kind of review realistically. I've talked to many who have seen their accounts grow substantially over the last couple of months with less going out the door, and say, can we take some of these habits and keep them moving forward as it relates to rebuilding our cash position or investing more for our future? And if we're financially healthy and not at 3 to 6 months, but we have security in our job and things like that, we want to work on squirreling away dollars. Most of my clients hide money in accounts with me or on their own. But even if they're not at the emergency fund number they want to be at yet, we still need to save for the future as well. It's got to be an and, not an or, in most situations if we have that capacity. So no magic pills. You got to make more or spend less. Hopefully both is the best scenario.
So James, I mean, obviously your business is in finances, but I look at you as being such a wealthy individual. I mean, and when I say that, I don't mean that you're, financially the richest person, but you give back so much to the community. You're extremely charitable. You have Farley's Friends. Could you tell our audience a little bit about what you do with Farley's Friends and any upcoming events that you may have virtually? Or
thank you for asking about that. So I've been fortunate enough to work with some astounding people professionally over the years, and one of the things that I've always tried to focus on, and I think is a big consistent trait that I find in the people I work with, is we love Rochester and we want to give back to this community. And so years ago, myself and a number of colleagues started a nonprofit here called Farley's Friends. Our mission is to shine a light on other area charities and nonprofits that do amazing work, and help them throw major fundraising events, give some extra dollars and some extra friends to them on an ongoing basis. So we do 2 signature events a year. We do a golf tournament named 4 for 4, 4 charities in one tournament, one day, which was scheduled for June. It's been delayed to August. There's a chance that it will happen. There's a chance we'll have to move it responsibly to 2021, but keep posted on that. And then we do a signature Christmas happy hour, if you will, in December, which hopefully will be able to happen, where we raise money for 2 charities at a time. Right now, obviously, our community needs our support. For those of us, especially that are able to work and are less phased by COVID, it's a great time to give money to charities and food cupboards and things like that need our help. So right now, we've just been focusing as a board. All 5 of us have been identifying some charities that we can throw some money towards. We don't have a lot in our coffers because we're a charity too, and we're entirely volunteer run. But today, actually, we're delivering food to Rochester General Hospital, to their environmental service and health and nutrition departments. A lot of our physicians working hard during this time, and thanking them while also supporting some local restaurants that we love and paying for the food and keeping them thriving right now.
So awesome. And thank you for doing that. You know, it's for these small businesses. I mean, Rochester is such a beautiful community that thrives off of small business, you know, and this time is really scary for a lot of people. And, you know, I hope that, you know, I really hope to see a lot of them come back after all of this. I did want to mention also the other thing I love about you. I mean, you're not a musician, but you are so passionate about music. Like as long as I've known you, you're a big concert goer. I mean, tell us about you. You were just about to go travel to Spain before all this hit. I know you go annually to a music festival.
Yeah, so this is a challenging year for obviously a number of reasons. On the passion side, I'm extraordinarily passionate, obviously, about my career and about my clients and about the Rochester community, but the arts have always been inspiring to me. And I have not seen less than 40 bands in a year since 2001. So this could be a really world-changing year for me and break my streak. But this would have been my 4th year in a row, heading out next week to Barcelona, Spain, to go to a festival named Primavera Sound. I had a bunch of other concerts lined up. I'm really, waiting with bated breath, hopefully, for all of us to come out of this positively and with vaccines and with a healthy economy, but also to satiate my need for high quality music and fun.
So what replaces that fun now that, you know, like we don't know if big concerts are going to be a thing for a while, I'm assuming, you know, like what is going to replace that void for you? Like what does Farley do now?
Yeah, so I think it's a really good time to support the arts. I mean, I have a really extensive record collection. So at night when cooking dinner or something like that with my girlfriend, we'll listen to different records. A lot of really fantastic concerts from years past are being broadcast on YouTube now, and documentaries and things like that. So I'm always, I curate some playlists on Spotify. I'm always digesting between 1,000 and 2,000 songs that are brand new on a regular basis. So that's happening, and then just try to get out in nature and reset your brain every now and then too. So with the weather getting nicer out, hopefully I'll be able to hike some trails or just sit outside in the backyard. And you hear a lot more animals right now with less people driving around all the time.
That's very true. Well, awesome. James, for those who are in need of a little financial assistance, how could they reach you?
So I'm very Googleable. I'm very easy to find, but you can go to my website, which is jamesfarley.nm, like northwesternmutual.com. I think, or you can, you'll find my phone number and information and email there. Right now, I think the big thing is, no matter who you work with, please work with someone and just get out there and have a conversation about what's actually happening and go back to your goals. Before we even started this meeting, I wrote a note to myself to revisit my vision and what I'm trying to create for myself and my family moving forward, because we have to look at it regularly, and this is a good time to do that.
Good for you. James, I mean, we love you. Thank you so much for being a part of this and for sharing your knowledge with us. I hope to see you of course. And we definitely hope to see you face to face, maybe with a mask on.
Yes, absolutely.
In life soon, you know. Hey, Greg, you ready to rock out one more song for us?
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay. This is called You. You're momentary fixtures of joy, an ordinary undisciplined boy. I wish you were here and I wish you were gone. I wish you would just forget about all that I have done to make you smile and make you laugh, making me wanna take times I could have took back, but you, oh music on, silent notes in between her bones. The same routine gets old, 'cause I know you're better at dancing. You've only seen the world treat you wrong, so you close your eyes and dance along. You wake up with shivers in an empty bed. It's so numb, so cold, you can see your breath. And no one to call up when you're not awake, no one to call out all your mistakes, no one to buy you the late night drive through, no one to follow your every move, no one to scream out when you're not alright, no one to talk about your wild nights, no one to bring back your old hometown. You're close to the edge but you won't stick around, and you're dancing the music on, silent notes in between her bones. The same routine gets old, 'cause I know you're better at dancing alone. I know you're better at dancing alone. And I know you're better at dancing
Amazing. Make sure you guys check out the drive-in experience. You could download Greg's music off of Spotify, or at least listen there, rather. And big thank you again to both Greg and James Farley of Northwestern Mutual for being a part of our show today and for sharing your music and knowledge with us. Today we focused quite a bit on financial wealth, but let's take a moment to discuss psychological wealth. They say money can't buy happiness. Sure, more money can lead to a more comfortable living, fun gadgets, extravagant luxuries. However, more money doesn't always necessarily improve one's quality of life. Adaptation, Greg had mentioned this earlier. Right now, we are all adapting one way or another in response to what's happening around us. Both good and the bad help us to grow and to move forward in life. Psychological wealth is what pulls us through those tough moments in time, and it comes in various forms. It could be spiritual or in prayer, and come in the form of love received from family and friends. It could be geographical, living in a place that's scenic and beautiful, or maybe even traveling the unknown and seeing new places and meeting new people. It could be the fulfillment you receive working your day-to-day profession, truly doing what you love. It could come in the form of time well spent doing the things you just simply love to do, and time spent in the company of those who love us. Whichever way you obtain psychological wealth, may it overall improve your quality of life. With that being said, I ask you all to ask yourself and to think for a moment, what makes you feel wealthy? Thank you so much to Boya Productions, to James Farley, to Greg Meisenzahl. Thank you to our sponsors, Electronic Merchant Systems of New York, Untamed Events, and the Jewish Home of Rochester. And special shout out to Matt Reimerman of Rochester, New York's The Green Room Recording Studio. And lastly, if you are interested in affordable advertising and would like to do us a huge solid by supporting our show, if you really enjoy the show, please check out our various packages via Patreon. It's www.patreon.com/Afternoon Cocktail Talk Show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will see you back here, same time, same place, this Friday. Take care.